This leads us to Nitro. Also, September 28th, 1998, number 159.
Watched this yesterday. I don't have a lot of memories of it. I seem to recall it was a little bit better
Than what?
than usual.
Maybe. I just watched it right before coming over here. I just remember the main event being all kinds of stupid, which is hardly shocking.
Hey, at least Scott Hall's sober now.
Yay?
Dude, yay!
Actually, you're right. That was awful last week. Yeah, that is a yay. So 5 minutes went by before anything on the show happened. There's a Hogan Warrior video. There's a Nitro Girls dance number. There's the announcers flapping their gums. And finally the NWO comes out. And even that part takes forever until they finally start talking. Bischoff talks about all the fans who are booing him and just says, "Thank you for all your money."
That was a great heel line.
That made me laugh. So Hogan goes off. I don't know what got into Hogan this week. I know...
Well, thank God there wasn't Twitter back then.
Thank God there was no...
Actually, I wish there had been Twitter back then because then you wouldn't have to do it on the air.
So he buries WCW. It's a Southern hick thing that he turned into a big deal. He made it a success. Says the fans are stupid. The other wrestlers are stupid. And then things take a turn. Now, I know Hogan's had some awkward... what's the best way to put this? Awkward race relations, I guess, in the past couple of years. Here he talks about how he's been spending some time in the hood.
The hood, you
T-H-A-H-O-O-D, hood. Talking to the brothers and sisters. And they all started calling him Wood.
Yes, Wood.
Short for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Say Wood. You need to take out those crybabies like Sting and Bret Hart. Also, I don't know what activities he was involved in the hood, but his voice was cracking like a 12-year-old. So he's calling out Sting, and Bret says, "If you want a piece of wood, come right down here."
That is what he said. If either of you want a piece of wood tonight, come find me.
Yeah. That's what he said.
That's what he said. If either of you want a piece of wood tonight, come find me.
Uh-huh. Started calling himself Woody as well. And finally, it was just done. Wrestling is weird.
Oh, man. Wait till his promo on The Warrior later.
Have La Parka versus Super Calo. So, their idea for an opening spot is do a handstand, Calo. I'll run under you, and then when you are behind me, or as you're coming down, I will mule kick you in the nuts. So they tried this. They fucked it up. His foot came nowhere near Calo's nuts, and so Parker just turned around and kicked him right in the balls.
Because LaPark is a professional.
I guess so.
What's notable about this match is Super Calo did not manage to kill himself.
That's true.
Which is a huge improvement for that guy. There was a lot of nuttiness. There were some fuck-ups. There was a corkscrew moonsault that pretty much missed.
Wasn't that the finish too?
LaParka, yeah. He landed on the guy's legs.
And pinned him.
It
was funny. They came out, aside from that opening high spot, this is a U.S.-style pro wrestling match. Just happened to have two Mexican guys doing it.
And I got to say, this changes on Nitro as the hours wear on because people get tired and bored and pissed off. But unlike WWE today, and by the way, this was the first time in like 5 straight weeks that they opened with a good match.
That's true.
Yeah. And the fans were into it. It's two WCW jobbers going out there and just giving it their all. And the fans were into it. They popped for the finish. They cheered for everything. It's very different than today. If you open Raw with a match between two mid-card geeks, it'd be death. And to call these guys mid-card is giving them a lot of credit.
Yeah. No. I've made this rant many times, but WWE has trained their fans to like superstars, catchphrases, entrances, and finishers, and not like wrestling. Wrestling is no good now. So Parker wins, clean as a sheet. Hits an Alabama slam, goes up top, hits a ugly dive. Calo responds to this sporting victory, this clean win, by taking Parker's own chair and beating him with it. And they frantically cut to commercial like they were afraid something terrible was about to happen. So I don't know if he went into business for himself here or what. Mean Gene brings Bret Hart out for a promo. Bret says, "Hogan, Sting and I heard you issue that challenge. Sting has agreed to step aside and let me finally get a crack at you. You've been ducking me for years. Tonight I finally get my shot. I know my legs hurt, but I'm going to fight through that to get my hands on you. And I promise to be a hero for the people. I'm going to be as great as Sting or Ric Flair."
This was legitimately a match 5 years in the making, from when they wanted Hogan to put over Brett, and Hogan refused to do it in 1993, and so he lost the title to Big Fat Yokozuna instead, because he was large, and there was a defective flashbulb on top of that. So this would have been their first ever singles match.
Absolutely.
For free on Nitro.
With no build.
With no build.
Well,
when you
see how it went down, I don't blame them for that part. But yes, they could have gotten people to buy a pay-per-view with that. And it was a very good babyface promo. Disciple versus Sick Boy.
So for those of you that may have forgotten, last week here on this show, the Warrior kidnapped Disciple. I mean, I don't know this, but we presume he gave him some really sweet drugs. Guy passed out on the bathroom floor. And then later in the show, he came out as the disciple of the Warrior.
Warrior appeared to have seduced him, yes.
Yes. So this week, Disciple came out for a wrestling match.
I think his first.
Well, no, he was the Butcher for a while.
That's true.
It had been years, I think.
As the Disciple, though.
Well, yeah, as a Disciple, I think this was his first match, but they put him in the ring with Sick Boy. Like, can you imagine that they put him in the ring with Sick Boy for this fucking match?
His first TV match in who knows how long.
It's fucking horrendous.
Yes.
Disciple is, I mean, think about this. The Disciple is having to pretend to be the ultimate warrior.
That's what happened. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. He would take a move, and he'd pop up on his skinny chicken legs, and he would beat his chest and scream.
It was so horrible.
Yeah.
He won with the worst stunner I've ever seen. You grab the guy and you sit on your ass. Is it that fucking hard? Apparently.
Apparently it is.
God damn, this was bad.
I also like how 10 minutes before this, Hogan was out there talking about how the Disciple was his most loyal soldier, the one guy who would never turn his back, and now Warrior had stolen him, left him for another man. So here, Disciple's just in the ring 10 minutes later. Hogan ignores it. He doesn't go out there to try to win him back. He doesn't go out there to attack him and get revenge. Moving on. They replayed an angle from Road Wild. I never saw this Road Wild, so I don't know if I ever saw this angle before, but it's awesome. So it's supposed to be Rick Steiner versus Scott Steiner. And they're outside, and they got the big stage set up in the blue sky, so it looks cool anyway. They wheel out Scott Steiner on a gurney. And his arms all wrapped up, legs all wrapped up, neck brace on, IVs everywhere, something over his mouth, oxygen mask, I guess. And Bagwell had just come back, so he's still in his neck brace. Bagwell wheels him out. So Bagwell does all the talking and says, you can clearly see this man is too injured to compete tonight. He cannot wrestle his brother. And JJ said, and they've had some wacky doctor's note, and JJ says, well, he's going to be there the next pay-per-view, right? And Buff says, oh yeah, he'll be the next pay-per-view, right? And he holds the mic down to Scott, who's still wearing an oxygen mask, so all you hear is, Buff says, see? He'll be there for the next pay-per-view. And JJ says, well, he better be, because if he's not ready in 2 weeks, he is barred from wrestling for life.
That's right. He can't wrestle anywhere in the world ever again.
And Scott Steiner is so outraged that he sits straight up and screams, what? It was so goofy and stupid and cartoony, but it was awesome. I laughed my ass off. So Rick Steiner chased them away. That was at Road Wild, and this led to the Steiner versus Steiner match at Fall Brawl, where they had an elaborate trap where Buff Bagwell would fake a neck injury, which, he'd just come back from the terrible neck injury. And it was all a setup, so they'd take him backstage, load him into an ambulance, Rick would turn his back, and they would pop out of the ambulance and get him. Which in hindsight was foreshadowing here on Nitro. I don't often give Nitro a lot of credit for artistic merit, but this is a perfect example of foreshadowing. We had Scott Steiner in a handicap match against Lenny Lane and Nick Dinsmore.
Yeah, the foreshadowing of Rick saying, make sure you call his mom.
Well, that too, but I was talking about the main event finish.
No, that was the one to me. Make sure you call his mom.
Yeah, that's coming.
Next week.
Oh, great.
They called her.
So we get the hospital, and Mama Bagwell.
Can you imagine? How did Raw win?
I wonder which show turns out better.
Judy Bagwell, which, by the way, was also the name of Bagwell's wife.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Mom Innes. Why?
I don't know.
Just happened to be named Judy. What's your mother's name?
Lina?
Lina?
Mm-hmm. Linna.
How the fuck did I never know that?
You never asked?
Was it a misspelling on her birth certificate?
How dare you? No.
Well, I mean, Gladys, her name is spelled wrong on her birth certificate.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
No.
So if Bridget's name were Lina, you would have just had nothing to do with her?
All I said was weird, man.
I'm just bringing it up. Love is weird, Vinny.
That was weird. The heart wants what the heart wants.
The heart wants what the heart wants. It's what's in a name?
What's in a name?
Aaron.
Can you explain that or should we just move on?
That's Vinny's middle name, but
middle
that's what they used to call him in high school.
Yeah.
He was Aaron Verhey.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever call you Vinny until me?
A few times.
Did I start this?
No. A few times. I started when I was... Oh, that's a long story.
We got all night.
There's no Craig. So, yeah. I was Aaron Verhey for my whole life. That's I guess it's what the plan was to call me, or if I just... Anyway, so I didn't like myself coming out of high school, started in college, didn't know anyone, had a chance to start over, and was tired of correcting professors every time they called roll. So when they said, "Is Vincent Verhey here?" I just said, "Yes."
So you would actually correct them before and say, "No, but Aaron's here."
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I didn't even correct people when they spelled my name wrong. I was like, who gives a shit? You want to use an I? I don't care.
Anyway, Scott beat the fuck out of these mofos. He double underhook powerbombed Dinsmore onto Lenny, tapped them both out with a double Steiner recliner.
This move's got to go. It's got to go.
And why is that?
Well, because it's so fucking stupid looking, and Scott Steiner going in there and throwing everybody around is awesome. So you're in there, and there's this big, jacked up, crazy fucker throwing people around, and you're like, God damn, this match is awesome. Then he sits on them both at the same time.
That's about what happens, yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah. So as soon as the submission's done, he begins to sell his back and his knee, and the trainer comes out to look at him.
It's almost like he's avoiding his brother.
I guess so. Warrior comes out for a promo. He's rambling on about Christ knows what. A fan hits the ring. Security tackles him. Warrior claims this fan is upset by Hogan. He promises at Halloween Havoc he will be full blown. And that's it. I literally got nothing out of his promo.
Is that what he said? Full blown?
I believe so.
Okay. I take it back then.
What were you going to say?
I could have sworn that he came out and said he was going to be all bone at Halloween Havoc.
That would be...
I thought for sure that's what he said.
I don't want to see all bone versus wood.
Well, I think that's what we're going to get. We're going to get wood versus all bone.
This match is even worse than I remember.
Oh, it's way worse. All bone. That's what he said, I'm positive. I even looked at the closed captioning.
Did you?
No. Oh. It's just a jumble of letters.
It just says Warrior rambles incoherently for 5 minutes. That's what's on the screen. Mean Gene calls Buff Bagwell out for a promo. Buff claims that Scott is in an ambulance and headed to the hospital. And when Gene questions this, Buff angrily says, "Are you calling me a liar?" There is mysterious cackling.
Ugh.
Buff says...
But it actually worked. That's the most amazing thing about it. Like, of all of this shit in WCW, Chucky was actually over. It's mind-blowing.
I guess.
I remember this. It was way more over than I expected. Of course, I had low expectations for a goddamn doll.
So Buff says if Scott's hurt, he's going to make Rick Steiner's holidays miserable. Psychosis versus the Cat. Cat does his spiel. "I must warn you, I'm required by law. I am a 3-time world karate champion. I could rip your heart out in 5 seconds. I am now giving
Bullshit.
I am now giving you a count of 5 to leave the ring." Psychosis, of course, speaks no English, so he just shrugs. So Cat turns around, sees him, and just kicks him in the face.
Listen, I'll put the Shad over a little bit. He was better than usual here, mostly because he actually did some professional wrestling again. I have no idea how a karate guy is better at doing something he's never done than something that he's done his entire life.
He really was a karate
But he
champion.
fucking pulled it off. Like, he was so bad at karate in his matches. But he was a decent professional wrestler, and he'd never done it.
Right. So Psychosis goes up top. He misses the Tijuana Jam. Shivani's going off about what this would do to the body. Hurt the spine, hurt your hamstrings, hurt the glutes. And Cat hits a spin kick and wins. And Larry says something like, I'm sure his glutes are sore.
Larry's so over all of this.
Yes.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, this match actually was a fun clash of styles. Mean Gene calls out Alex Wright, who cuts a promo in German, and then calls out the British Bulldog.
Yeah.
Why? What?
I don't know, but they had a match.
Later they did. I don't know why. Like, there's some matches that you build to. Like, you'd think Hogan and Hart would be one of them. Bulldog and Alex Wright, you don't need to build that. You can just put them in the ring and do a match. It's okay. Chavo Guerrero versus Disco Inferno. So Disco threatened to break the toy horse, but then put it back in the corner instead.
Dude, I told you that I was going to fast forward through every match involving this goddamn stick horse. But I actually liked the Disco Inferno, so I watched this match, and he proceeded to... What happened here? I could have sworn he destroyed
Well, first
it.
of all, he didn't
But somehow Chavo got his, and so I was happy.
Well, first of all, Disco here was a total heel and Chavo was a babyface, randomly, because I think they were doing the opposite for the past several weeks. So, I'm still not sure how he pulled this off, but Disco somehow managed to stab Chavo in the throat with a hobby horse.
That's what he did. He used his horse against him and pinned him.
And the ref somehow did not see this.
It made me so happy.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a heel spot, but it was a babyface spot to me.
Juventud runs out and attacks Disco, but when he turns his back, Disco recovers and lays him out with a pile driver.
It's just so wacky. Juvi actually got booed for coming in and going after Disco.
Well, Disco...
The psychology here is so fucked up in this match.
Because Disco had been a babyface for weeks. I guess Chavo was a babyface, I'm not sure, but no one likes the horse. People like dancing with Disco, they like his music at least. He wrestled a total heel of the match. He won in heel fashion. And then he got attacked. I don't know. 4 Horsemen hype video showed clips of the Horsemen throughout history, including the car door angle. I made the clip. So Mean Gene brings the Horsemen out for a promo. Before they can say hardly anything, Bischoff comes out. He says, Arn Anderson assaulted Stevie Ray on Thursday. Security, police, take the Horsemen out of the building. And so the Horsemen left.
And Doug Dillinger.
Horsemen were cool for like a week.
Well, it's not... I mean, they were still cool, but the problem is you're in the middle of a damn wrestling war, and you can't let Ric Flair, like, cut a promo for a few minutes before you have the guys come out and arrest him. Like, it was good heat, but you can still get good heat, but actually give the television viewers something to make them want to keep watching your stupid show.
So Bischoff, as they're taken out, he buries Flair for skipping work to go watch his 10-year-old son wrestle. Called him a coward, and they went to break. Chris Jericho and his goofs were walking backstage.
Man, this was actually the first Nitro appearance of Ralphus, I believe. Because he debuted at Fall Brawl. And I don't think he was on, maybe he was on TV last week.
There was a clip of him, but it may have been from another show, but yes.
But one way or the other, so Ralphus comes out right here.
There's Ralphus, there's the Jerichoholic Ninja.
Yep.
And a third man who I had forgotten.
Well, the important thing here was, so Jericho, I guess he presumed Goldberg wasn't there. We actually don't know that part of the story. But he calls out Goldberg because the fake Goldberg's going to come out. But instead, the real Goldberg comes out with the fake Goldberg on his shoulder. He throws the guy into the ring, and he proceeds to destroy the security guards. Now, I thought, how... he killed Ralphus. But then, I went back to watch carefully. That's why they had a third guy there.
Yes.
They got Ralphus the hell out of there because they didn't want Goldberg laying one hand on that guy.
No.
Because he was just a guy that worked there.
Yeah.
He was not in a position to be speared by Goldberg and jackhammered.
No, that would be awful.
But the place went absolutely batshit crazy for this. As you would expect.
It was a great segment because I didn't know what happened here. So when I thought it was going to be the Imitator again or something, or he wouldn't show up.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah. Goldberg comes out just carrying this guy much like you carry Paisley. Just easy.
I'm pretty sure that he carried this grown man easier than I carry Paisley.
Yeah. And for even better, it's the first time we've seen Goldberg calm. Because usually he's snorting and hollering and growling.
Well, he was calm for a second till he had to spear and jackhammer these guys.
Yeah.
The one fucker didn't go for the jackhammer, and Goldberg's like, "You're going up, dude."
Yeah.
And he fucking throws this guy in the air and jackhammers him. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Jericho ran for his life. It was a great segment. This is great. Mean Gene brings DDP out for a promo. So he brings DDP out. I'm sure Paige is thinking, all right, chance to get myself over and plug my World Championship match in this pay-per-view. And then before he can get going, Gene just goes off on a spiel about Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. I was thinking, what the fuck? Let him talk, dude. So he finishes. Paige pretty much ignores what he'd been talking about. Talks about Goldberg, puts him over for a while. Talks about the Horsemen, the Wolfpack, the Black and White. But he's the one guy who stands on his own. He's going to beat Goldberg on Sunday and prove he's for real. Or at the pay-per-view at Halloween Havoc and prove he's for real. Scott Hall versus Kidman.
This stupid match started, and as it continued on, I thought, is this another one of those stupid slip on a banana peel things?
That's what I thought too.
Because Scott Hall goes out there and he does those stupid things every now and then. He's working him over. He's beating him up. Kidman gets like a near fall with the power bomb. Hall, of course, tries the edge, but he turns into his gimmick. Anyway, the point of this is none of this got any heat. And then Hall hits the edge and pins him.
Right.
What in the absolute fuck was this?
Let's review. Kidman wins the Cruiserweight title in a great match, gets himself over in one night. Next week, he wrestles an exhausted Disco Inferno. He goes for a long time. He at least won, but he did not look great doing so. And he comes out here and just gets stomped.
He was just destroyed by a guy that last week was a drunk.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the other thing about this. Last week, Scott Hall was so drunk, he brought the entire show to a complete halt. So now, in storyline, WCW as a company is so stupid, they're just going to put him out there again the next week.
Yep. Just booked him in another match.
I also like here, Hall had a choke slam at one point, and then started to make fun of the Giant. And then Tony says, oh, he's making fun of the Giant. And then Hall stops and like, that's a shout out for you, G-Man or something. And Tony says he's paying tribute to the Giant. I think they both forgot that he and Giant are on the same team now.
Well, Giant was negotiating with WWE the same week. So,
I see.
Well,
I did not know that.
all I know is a drunk dude just destroyed the Cruiserweight champion. I'm sure these stupid fuckers were like, well, you know, he got the rub working with Hall. Get real. This guy got killed. Came across like a total geek.
We got British Bulldog versus Alex Wright.
Bulldog, keep in mind, Bulldog has an infection that is spreading through his body as we speak watching this show. He's out there all hurt, doing a stupid match with Alex Wright. He did cut a good promo beforehand where he said he had an 11-year-old son backstage and Alex couldn't lace his boots.
Fact.
Young Harry.
I saw Harry when he was not much older than 11. I can confirm. Alex could not lace his boots. He also, Bulldog did, told Alex, suck it in German. So, I don't know what happened, but it was pretty much only this match and maybe a little bit after, but I got just like a nuclear bomb of buffering. It would stop for a minute, play for 2 seconds, stop for a minute, play for 2 seconds. It made it almost unwatchable. And eventually, I was able to get it working again, and that made me sad, because it turns out the buffering was the best part.
So here's the finish. The referee takes a bump.
Stop right there. This bump was so terrible that Tony Schiavone had no choice but to call it a glancing blow. A glancing blow that knocked the referee down like he was glued to the mat.
He goes down. A Bulldog hits the power slam. There's no ref. It took the Bulldog a full 8 seconds of covering the guy to realize that nobody was counting. So they bring out another referee, Charles Robinson. Alex goes for a back suplex, and both referees count the pin. Now, from the angle that we, the viewer, were watching this. This was the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life, because both refs count because everyone's shoulders are down, but both guys lift a shoulder up. So from our vantage point, 2 referees fucked up and counted 3 when it was a 2. Now, I guess the story was the referees were on each side of the guy.
Yes.
And so they saw one guy lift, but the other guy not lift. But the way they lifted their hands was to stick their fist straight up in the air. So, like, the idea that the referee couldn't see the guy lift his shoulder, it was just ridiculous.
All I could think when this was all said and done was, does this have to be this complicated?
Yeah. They had to do a draw.
Yeah, you're going to do a draw.
2 undercard dorks.
You can't just have them brawl to the back.
Nope.
Something you must think of 87 steps, a Rube Goldberg finish here.
Yes.
This irritated me. And like I say, the best part of this match was the buffering. Kevin Nash versus Bryan Adams.
Are you absolutely kidding me? 380 wrestlers. And they give Kevin Nash Bryan Adams. It was fucking terrible.
Did we mention the small child who jumped Nash during his entrance?
Oh.
Crack WCW security team.
Well, they got rid of
Did they
Dillinger.
legitimately kick the security
They
team out?
must have.
Now, I will say this. I can't tell you how low my expectations for this match were. I thought this would have been like worst match I have seen since 1998. It was short, and they didn't. It could have been worse. I'll put it that way. Bryan Adams did
I'm not sure how.
a drop kick. Nash went flying over the top rope, and then he just hit some big boots and went for the powerbomb, and Stevie Ray ran out and hit him in the head for the DQ. Using that slapjack.
That goddamn slapjack.
So they're beating Nash up when Hall comes out, still pretending to be drunk. But then he pours the drink out. He's sober. And he starts punching Nash. And Luger and Conan run down to make the save.
So I couldn't figure out if the storyline was supposed to be that he is sobered up or that he has never been drunk and it was a rib or a ruse or something all along.
If it was a ruse, actually either way, why would you reveal this before the pay-per-view? Why wouldn't you try to lure Nash into a false sense of security and then surprise him during the match being sober and beat his ass?
Well, because I think they want to sell pay-per-views. They figure if they tell the fans that he's sober now, they might actually buy it expecting an actual match.
I guess. Okay. That leads to Hugh Morris and Barry Darsow. Barry Darsow is on Nitro every week in 1998. Smash from Demolition.
Dude, Crusher Khrushchev.
Yeah, that too.
Luger and Conan versus Humorous and Crusher Khrushchev.
Crash the Terminator. It's oh my god, it's Crash and Smash. I just realized that.
Actually, it is.
It should have been a team.
You're right.
Hugh cut his hair and looks like a Funhouse mirror version of Bobby Roode. Like creepy how much he looked like him. Conan and Smash turned out to not be a good styles clash or a good mix as it turns out. And they wrestle for like 2 minutes and Lex says, "Well, I'm done." And he grabs Darsow and puts him in a torture rack and wins.
This was after the worst X Factor in world history that Conan applied on Crusher Khrushchev. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay. And then the main event is Hulk Hogan versus Bret Hart for the very first time ever.
I gotta say, the first 5 minutes of this match where they exchanged technical wrestling holds, I know some of you listening to this, probably most of you don't believe this happened, but Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan put on a technical wrestling clinic. And Hogan was actually really good. Hogan did the
rolling armbar spot.
The rolling arm bar.
He's got about 8 cool technical moves he can do.
He did his go behind into a takedown,
he
rode
does
the guy.
Hammerlock go behind leg spin thing.
That's right.
Yep, that's one.
I want to see more Hulk Hogan technical grappling matches.
Watch all this Japan stuff. It's like this. Is a Hogan Muda match. Where it's like 30 minutes of this.
When people say watch Hogan's Japan stuff, it's like one match they talk about over and over.
It's probably that one.
Maybe 2.
It's probably that one.
But no, I want more on Nitro.
I see. So, the other great thing about this was, it was a great story where Hogan knew that he's Hulk Hogan, he's the man with the pythons, and this guy is the excellence of execution. Hogan, to satisfy his own ego, wanted to prove he could beat Bret at his own game. It actually would have been a beautiful thing to just watch this unfold as a main event.
It would have been great if it would have just been a match. But the angle...
But they had other ideas.
So, to cut to the chase, Bret and Hogan are in cahoots. And they had a plan. Now, unfortunately, in order to make you believe, in order to fool you, the story was Hulk Hogan tried to break Bret Hart's leg.
Yeah.
We're supposed to believe, after the show was over, that they went into the ring and went, you know what? I'm going to try and break your goddamn leg. I'm going to drop it across the barricade twice. I'm going to wrap it around the pole. I'm going to whack it with shit. I'm going to try and break it so that your friends come out to try to save you.
Right, and then we'll get him.
This is so stupid.
It actually goes deeper than that. This bad leg goes back to War Games. So they had a multi-week plot, a conspiracy of beating Bret's leg for real in storyline.
Or in storyline, Bret really hurt his leg. And Hogan, in order to get this over, decided, I'm going to really break your leg. And Bret agreed to it.
I guess.
One way or the other, this was so dumb.
So they go through all this trouble. Weeks of planning, apparently. All this attack of Bret's leg. And it leads up to Sting running out. And they're just wrestling at this point. He throws Hogan off him. He cowers over Bret to make sure Bret's still alive. Lex and Conan are out there too. All the Wolfpack except Nash, who didn't care. And Bret says, no, let me fight. He's putting his hands together and begging, please let me in there to fight. And they say, no, you're too hurt. You're hurt too badly. Meanwhile, Hogan goads Sting into a fight. Sting had been challenged too. Sting says, sure, we can fight. The ref says, well, what the hell? You guys fight then. So they start doing their match as Lex and Conan are helping Bret to the back. Bret is put on the gurney. He is strapped down for his own good, of course, because he won't go back on his own free will. And they take him back to the ambulance. And the EMTs, I guess, are Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell in disguise. And they jump Lex and Conan, leave him laying. They unhook Bret, and make fun of his bad leg. And Bret, I thought he was limping and like fleeing away from them, but he begins to limp down to ringside. And he gets in the ring. And Sting's making his comeback just then. So he hooks the Scorpion, and Bret does like a fist pump. Yeah, you've got him. And Sting gets the move, and he turns it over, and Bret walks up and DDTs him, and the ref calls for the DQ. All this work. All the plotting, the planning, making sure all the chess pieces were lined up, and the damage to Bret's leg, just so he could do a DDT.
Not only that. This actually was a great angle, except for two major things. One, the fact that Hogan was attempting to cripple the man in order to set up their angle. Which, by the way, at the end of this, after he gave the DDT, he jumped up and wasn't selling his leg at all.
Right.
So I was imagining when you dropped this guy's leg across the barricade twice and wrapped around the post and tried to break it.
Well, it turns out in storyline, wrestling is fake.
Well, the other thing, as I mentioned last week, this all started with Bret Hart attacking Sting and beating Sting up while pretending to be Sting's friend. Somehow, Sting decided, Bret really is my friend. So this fucking Geek of the Century, he's way beyond Geek of the Week, he befriends Bret Hart. He falls for it hook, line, and sinker. And once again, at the end of the day, he is humiliated and beaten and turned on.
Did we ever mention how badly Sting was booked in WCW?
It's mind-blowing. He is such a fucking geek in WCW here. They've turned him into such a dork.
Here's the other thing about this. What ultimately did Sting lose here? A friend who he'd had for 2 weeks.
A friend he'd had for 2 weeks.
He won the match.
Wasn't even really his friend.
There was nothing at stake. He didn't lose a title shot. He didn't lose a championship. He just got DDT'd like happens to him every week anyway.
This poor guy. Such a geek.
So, Conan and Lex run out.
This is also notable.
And I think, okay, they will hit the ring. Hogan and Bret will run away. No.
No.
Conan and Lex, like when Hogan and Bret had their back turned, they drag Sting out of the ring and help him to the back and slink away.
would you like me to tell you what happened here?
Please.
Very much like on the other show where the referee screamed 45 seconds. Conan and Stinger are supposed to come down, and then the Warrior is supposed to make a big triumphant entrance and run off the heels.
Aha.
Somewhere, somehow, he didn't get his cue, or he missed his cue, or he was putting on his makeup, or he was just gallivanting around with the disciple, but he fucking never showed up. And then they discovered we're legit out of time.
Yeah.
And they went off the air early.
There's like the lights and the seats dim, and the show ends.
This is such a mess. The show is such a mess. This would have been a good angle if in the middle of the match they were doing technical wrestling and then Brett acted like he blew out his knee. And he grabbed it and he fell down and he wasn't legit faking it.
How many times have we seen someone like do a leapfrog and grab their knee?
Yeah, dude, they could have done that. This would have been an excellent angle. Instead, it was a good angle, but that was preposterous. The story of WCW. They got to be doing the mirror next week.
Well, Havoc is just in a few weeks.
We're running out of time.
Yeah.
It may be the Go Home show that they actually did that, if you can even believe that. That's the Go Home angle, that Warrior is magically in a mirror that only Hogan could see. And us. Except the storyline is, if you can see him, you're fucking crazy. Anyway. Yeah, this company sucks.
It really does.
I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but they went out of business a couple years later after losing tens of millions of dollars in a single calendar year, 60 to be exact. It's nuts.
Well, that's the show.
That's the show, everybody.
Hope Craig's back next week.
He'll be back next week. We'll be back on Thursday, talking the beginning of Ultima Lucha Trace, which I guess is a 4-week show.
Uh-huh.
Final 4 weeks of Lucha Underground. NXT as well. Granny saw her today at the park at Whitney's birthday. She says she's got a doozy for Thursday.
Oh, my goodness.
She's very excited. I don't know what the hell that means, but be ready for that. Lots of shows up on the front page. Make sure you check out Killing the Town with Storm and Cyrus on Podcast 1. I'm on there talking Bobby Heenan this week. And I believe on Keeping It 100 with Conan, I'm on that show as well.
Wow.
So if you're on Podcast 1, 2 different shows. If you really need to hear more me, I don't know why. I literally had someone on Twitter go, I hear you too much. I can't listen to this show. I don't know why people feel the need to tell people things like that on Twitter, but the guy told me that. But if you want to, Killing the Town and Keeping It 100 with Conan, check both those out. And that is it from here. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Adios.